Okay, hello everyone. My name is Terry Lynch. I'm the CEO of Power Metallic. I'll give you a brief presentation and we'll take some Q&A after that. We're going to talk to you about our major polymetallic discovery in Nemaska, Quebec. And it's a deposit that is mostly 45% copper, 55% precious metals, comprised of about 40% platinum and palladium, 10% gold, 5% silver. Won't tell anything we don't believe is true, but do your own due diligence, of course. So, quick snapshot. We're well funded, 33 million in the bank as of like a couple of days ago. So we're in the midst of a 100,000 meter drill program that'll finish up at the end of 2026. We have about maybe another 15,000 meters of drill already for assays right now. And that will finish up about 45,000 meters this year, 55,000 meters next year. We've been blessed by being invested in by some of the top mining investors in the planet. Robert Friedland's led the last two deals. Rob McEwen as well, and Gina Reinhardt is in there as well. Mining has been a difficult spot for financing over the last number of years. If you wanted to get finance, you really had to bring the money yourself or bring some high net worth people. We have done that. The reason why they came is because of the enormous potential of our discovery. So location-wise, we're in Quebec. We'll talk through why that's such a great asset for the company. Little snapshot on the shares outstanding, etc. Big takeaway here is about half the company is owned by the principal investors. All those guys have put in serious checks over the last 2 years. I've been the second biggest investor. I put a fresh 5 million in. Robert Friedland's obviously outdone that, but the key point is that people that know the deal best are writing big checks. That's often a good sign for an investment, I believe. So where are we at in the world? In Quebec. Quebec is in Canada. Very secure location. Quebec's a very pro-mining jurisdiction. Three reasons to think Quebec's one of the, if not the best, certainly amongst the best places in the world to look for critical minerals. Number one is the infrastructure is there. In mining, if you don't have it, you got to build it. It comes out of your profits. So in this case, we're lucky we can drive right off the Route North, a major 4-lane highway, right to the site, right to the rigs. There's power on the site. There's a major Hydro-Quebec substation across the road. So you got cheap green power right there. It's very accessible. We're about 15 clicks, 8 miles outside of the town of Nemaska. Nemaska's got a regional airport, has accommodations and food for our staff. It's also home to the James Bay Cree. The James Bay Cree are probably the largest and most sophisticated First Nations in our country. And they're super pro-mining. So they've been super helpful to us. And NIMBY in mining can kill you. So if you don't have community support, even if you have a great project, it won't get built. So we don't have that problem. Number three reason to like Quebec so much is the fiscal terms. So when we raised $50 million in February of this year, the investors paid $1.45 a share. Yet the company got an average of $2.50 a share. That's through some structures that are available in Quebec that basically allow 2-for-1 exploration. And it happens to be the same for development. So if we built this mine that cost $400 million, $200 million would come from the federal government, and the provincial government, $200 million would basically come from our own coffers. So there's nothing quite like it anywhere else in the world for fiscal incentives. Let's talk about the discovery. It was initially a nickel company. We acquired a nickel deposit that had 3.1 million tons of about 1.5% nickel. We grew it to now it's probably around 8.5. The MRE is around 7.1. That's the mineral resource estimate on the nickel. In looking for more nickel, we stepped out and we got lucky. We hit the jackpot. We hit this thing called the Lion Zone. In looking for the nickel, we found this crazy copper precious metals deposit on top of it. So it totally transformed our thinking of what we had, and now we had a much different animal, a much more valuable animal. When we went out this first quarter of last year to raise capital to further the progress, these next two slides were sort of what drove people to invest. We basically looked at other polymetallic deposits around the world, looked at what they had in the ground relative to their market cap, and if you look and run the numbers, you'll see that we're trading at about 20 to 30 cents on the dollar. So we were cheap. So that was one thing that made people attracted to us. Second thing was we had a lot of upside. So this little triangle chart here is basically all the 20 orthomagmatic deposits that are in the world that have been discovered. So orthomagmatic is a type of nickel sulfide, but it has a lot of copper and PGEs, and in this case, gold and silver as well. So they're literally the best mines in the world, the world's most profitable mines. So whether it be Voisey's Bay, Marinsky's Reef, or Sakatti, the mother of them all, the biggest and most profitable mine in the world is Norilsk. Oktyabrsky, which is in the center of the chart there. That's what that's from. So what's neat about these projects is that for every 1 ton of copper that you find on average 5 tons of nickel. So right now at our project in at NISC, we have 1.5 tons of copper for 1 of nickel, soon to be 2 tons of copper to 1 of nickel, because we've been looking for the copper because that's higher value. But we stopped looking for the nickel. It's not that it's not there, it's just that it's not as, we're getting $800 rock, so why chase the $200 rock? But what's interesting is that, you know, there is ultimately going to be a massive nickel component to this deal as well. And this was what will make this a very big discovery. Every single one of these 20 orthomagmatic discoveries in the history of the world have become major mines, i.e. 1 million tons of contained metal, and many have gone on to have more than 10 million tons. So the asymmetric upside in this opportunity is really what's compelling as an investment story. On the team side, in mining, you basically need 2 people. You need the guy at the front of the room that can talk and can get people to write checks and write checks themselves. That's me. And then you need people that can find the mine, and find the ore, and find it in a productive and a cost-effective way. So we've been able to put together what we think the world's best team for the polymetallic side space. Steve Beresford in the middle. He formerly was chief geo at First Quantum, and before that, after that, he was at IMG, and then MMG, pardon me, and then IGO. 3 successful multi-billion-dollar polymetallic companies. So he spent more money exploring for polymetallics than any man alive. He's not the top guy in the space. He's certainly in that conversation. The guy on the far left is Joe Campbell with the nice little hat there, little Canadian hat. Joe discovered Agnico Eagle's one of their big gold projects. He runs the 2nd biggest geological consulting firm in the country. And one of the things we've been able to do is to tie into that firm to leverage our growth. So we've gone from 1 rig to now 5. We're going to soon be having 6 and 7 rigs. So scaling like that for young companies are really a challenge. So it's actually as a vagrancy of in the Canadian tax code. If they're external, you can write off 100%. If it's internal, it's 80%. So it doesn't even really cost us more. But now we get really top tier talent. So both Steve and Joe were trained at Western Mining. Western Mining is one of the iconic mining firms like Inco. Western Mining is owned by BHP. The other person I'll point to on the team that's going to be sort of key for us going forward is the guy in the middle of the 2 geologists, and his name is Seamus O'Regan. He used to be the federal minister for Canada for natural resources, and before that portfolio, he was in charge of Indigenous affairs. So 2 key portfolios that could help us as we go forward and become a mine. I think many people are here at the conference, here at the show, looking at mining companies because they believe in this slide, that in fact commodities are going to have their day. They're already starting to rip now a bit on the gold and silver, and certainly now copper's coming along, but it's still early days. And then that's the macro thing on the commodities. And then on our own specific project, since we did the financing in February, copper's up 12%. You can see the other numbers on the screen. We're probably up about 30% across the board. So a pretty dramatic improvement in our own commodity base. We got the money to answer this one question: how big is NISC going to be? Okay, so that's what we're in the process of doing. Sakati's core is about 40 million tons, and they've recently just updated that to 157, adding in some lower grades material. Voice Bay 140. We're all in around probably close to 20 right now. I have no doubt we'll get to 40. Will we get to 140, 150? It's a good chance. So that, and the cool thing is, from an investment perspective, it's all free. All that upside is not baked into our price. None of it's baked in. In fact, we're trading at a deep discount. One of the things we noticed when we raised the money, just after we raised the money, the Trump tariffs came in, put a bit of a pall in the overall market as the uncertainties were being impacted. So we thought, okay, well, that sucks, but that's life. We were thinking we're going to get re-rated. That's why people gave us the money. And then all of a sudden that happened. So we realized, okay, the re-rating is not going to happen now. So what do we do? So what we realized is that, hey, you know what, we don't have enough land. This is going to be a district. All these orthomagmatic deposits, except for one, have become districts. In other words, multiple mines. So we realized, we looked at, did a fairly serious regional study and realized we didn't have enough land. So we've gone through and required 6 times our land package. We've gone from 46 square kilometers to 330. Did it in a few steps. The first step was the lift acquisition. And we basically identified 8 major targets we feel could have lion-like potential. We now own 7 of them. So that's really been significant. In particular, Is there a pointer here? No pointer. So if you look at this map here, where you see those blocks coming out in the top right-hand corner, that's the hydrolands, okay? So the Lion Zone is just the discovery is the red star up there. And the Lion Zone, basically, we believe the second half of it goes out on these hydrolands. We've been trying to get this for 14 months. I actually went to the James Bay Cree, and we went with them to Quebec Hydro to get them to remove this restriction, put it back into the province so we could actually stake it. And after a lot of trial and effort, we eventually got that done, and we announced that just a couple months back. It was a huge accomplishment for us, made no impact to the market. But one of the things we did was we didn't drill some of our prime targets as we were trying to acquire this land and as we were trying to buy the lift land. Because, you know, in real estate, if you're trying to buy the property next door to you, you don't want to make it like you desperately need it, right? So it was the wise move to do, but it did slow us down developmentally. So I think, you know, our stock has come off in the last month from $1.50 to 90 cents or so, because one of the investors got frustrated that we hadn't delivered more goods. And I understand the frustration. The reality is we chose tactically to do this because we thought in the long run, we got to get this land. This is what's going to, you know, create our value. We've got the cash. You know, we're not under any emergency to raise more cash. We were executing the plan, and now we got the land to do it. So right now, we're dealing with our most exciting set of exploration properties. We've got the best scientists in the world that have found plenty of this stuff before. We've found it here ourselves. Our commodities are up 30% across the board, more, and we're about to list in New York. So how do you like those apples? I mean, those are good apples. So over the next, 90, 180 days, we're going to be drilling 4 major areas. The Lion Zone, which is going to continue to grow, which we've evidenced. We just put out 2 releases showing that growth is happening with very high-grade results. And then these 3 primary targets, we think we've identified where ultimately the big nickel sulfide underbelly of this thing is probably down around 1,000 meters or so. We've just announced in our last press release 2 days ago our biggest. We've been using a technique called borehole EM, and this borehole EM basically is when you drill a 6-inch hole in the ground, you can throw a tool down there and it'll give an electromagnetic surge, and within a 150-meter radius, if you have a sulfide body, it'll react to it. So we've got the biggest indication we've ever had, and this has been a highly effective technique for us in this area. So we believe, you know, the big one is down there now. We have to get after it. It requires us to be on some more deeply frozen ground, which won't be ready until January. So we'll be starting early in January on that hole. And then the other 2 tactics we're doing is that we noticed that we have a spot called Tiger, which is just to the right of Lion, and it has very lion-like sort of lenses that we've found, but we haven't found the big prize. We now believe through borehole EM that it's somewhere between 400 and 800 meters underneath Tiger. We're drilling that right now, so we'll have some results out on that in January. And then the third thing is on the hydrolands, we're basically drilling what we think is the second half of Lion on what we think is called a fold hinge. So it's super exciting, time to be in exploration at Power Metallic. In mining, as important as it is to find rock that's got ore, you got to be able to get the mineral out of the ore. So metallurgy is really critical. You got to understand metallurgy. So we put out a report about 6 weeks ago to show that the minerals are going to report 93% to CopperCon. That's what you want to hear. So we'll actually have a full metallurgical study out by the end of January. We're right now using 80% recoveries. I think we'll do much better than that. So that'll be a free, quick, a very positive update for us. So that'll be good. And then from a PEA perspective or pre-feasibility study, when you have a fast-growing ore body like the Lion Zone, what you do is you put out all the collars, all the assays, all the azimuths, and you put out the met study. And then you let the market sort of figure it out. We'll eventually get a PEA and PFS done, but it won't be until the end of 26 or probably H1 of 2027, because otherwise it would constrain the growth. So milestones, basically look for more exploration as we're ramping up, moving from 5 to 7 rigs. We're going to increase the resource value in several ways. 1, by finding more resources. 2, by the rising commodity prices. 3, by the improving grade. Land packages, we're going to continue to grow and add more land up there if we can. We're going to move to New York. We hope to have it listed by now, honestly, but the U.S. shutdown sort of slowed us down a bit, so that'll happen in January. The Met study will be out in January. We've got a spin-off that we still own half of that we did in the end of February, and we're now taking that public. It's in a very hot area in Chile and in BC. It's a gold copper spin-off, and our existing shareholders own half, and we own the other half. That'll be listed, we hope, by the end of the year. And then we two other interesting opportunities. We have a feasibility study being done right now by a company called CVMR. They're actually, your US dollar bills are printed using their technology. And they have a couple of joint ventures with the US DoD. They make nickel powder. Nickel powder is used for basically 3D printing, EVs, and for defense purposes. So nickel powder is $40,000 to $60,000 a ton. Nickel is $15,000 a ton. So if you're in the nickel business, you want to be in the nickel powder business. So that's what we're looking to do with our nickel. On the global opportunities, we got invited by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia because of our exploration expertise to go to Saudi and to bid on projects there if we found something we liked. And they said if we won, they would introduce us to the top 5 family offices. So as a junior miner, you can appreciate you don't get a chance to meet a lot of 50 billion and 100 billionaires. Okay, so we obviously took advantage of that. We did bid, won a great project, got it in September. So we'll be back there in January. We've advanced that forward. So 4 years ago, NISC was a seedling. Today it's an oak, and we hope soon to be a forest. I think Saudi's in the same sort of perspective. We have high hopes for Saudi. It's a great geological area. And it's also got the 8th biggest stock exchange in the world. So our plan is ultimately to create a Saudi subsidiary. We'll eventually take it public down there and use other people's money to, grow. So that's the Power Metallic story, and happy to answer any questions.
What do you have going on in Chile? Where's mine?
Yeah, so in Chile, we basically have in Region 3, by Copiapó, we've got we've done a bunch of work, maybe over the years, I don't know, 10, 12 million bucks worth of work, exploration work. And recently we brought in Fleet Space to do ambient noise. Ambient noise is a new seismic approach. This is copper, copper gold. And the challenge in Chile is if you're not on the mountains where you got rocks, you're in the desert with the sand. Sand is super hard to explore in, but the ambient noise is sort of the new secret tactic there. So we've done the ambient noise, so we've got some new insights on where that's going to go. So that's why we're sort of stoked with that. And in that particular region around us, there's been like a rocketing amount of exploration now by the majors, by Codelco and Rio Tinto. And so we've got majors approaching us now on this. So it's sort of going to be a nice little package, I think. Chile. Yep.
I go through the capital stack again.
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, basically, myself and my family are the biggest shareholders. And after that, you've got Friedland, McEwen, BT Global, which is a hedge fund in Canada, Palace Capital, a hedge fund in Canada, Critical Elements, which is where we bought the 80% of the project from, and the Stern family. So all folks that have written significant checks as we've gone forward. So it's good to have the good thing about that, I think in a junior, you like to see a big chunk of committed long-term equity because it means you're not going to get gobbled up by anybody easily. Because these guys are not in here to sell it at $2.
Do you have any debt?
No debt.
And how are you funding? You have so much going on. Are you just issuing stock or?
Yeah. We issued stock in February of last year, and before that was 50 million. The round before that was 20 million. The previous May, so
What was
that
the last price at which you issued
$1.45.
stock? Canadian.
Today the price is 90 cents.
So I was looking at Greenland mining, where you can only buy licenses. Just to clarify, you own the land or these?
No, so in most jurisdictions, you get the license to own the mineral rights, and then after you have sufficient reasons to believe there'll be a mine there, then you apply for a permit to build the mine, and there's a royalty structure that kicks in. But you never own the land. In this case, the land is owned by the government of Canada or government of Quebec for the most part. And in some cases, maybe the First Nations, but in this case, it's mostly Government of Canada. Pardon? So your mineral rights are basically permanent. You have to keep on making expenditures. As long as you make expenditures, they're forever. Yeah, there's no time limit on them. Yeah, sorry about that.
Have you begun producing nickel powder, as you were saying?
Yeah, no, when we did the MRE on the nickel, we produced nickel powder with CMR just to confirm that we could do it. That was viable. But we haven't built the plant yet, no. So that evaluation is still going on.
And if you fund that plant, would that be the PPM again, or?
Yeah, you know what? That would probably be a separate, like we'd probably spin that out and fund that separately. It's a bit of a different animal.
Yeah.
You know, so, and there's tons of government funds for that right now because it's a defense thing, you know, so.
An offtake.
An offtake, yeah.
Yeah.
Just update a little more on the uplisting and what the share structure looks like.
Yep. So right now, obviously, you know, roughly 282 million shares. To be listed in the U.S., it's a minimum $2 U.S. ticker. So, we've got a bunch of news that come out over the next while. We'll see where that goes. But at some point, if we had to, we'd have to do a consolidation, right? So, and of course, consolidation is like the great fear. My God, he's going to consolidate the stock. But the reality is consolidations are of two different types, right? If you've got to consolidate to keep a listing or to do a financing, that's one thing. If you're consolidating to get to the biggest marketplace in the world and you're not doing a financing, that's another thing. So there's a few examples of Canadian companies that have consolidated and done very well, ripped it right off the face. And so I expect we'll be one of those guys. And that's what if we have to, we'll do that. We're committed to getting to the United States in a big way. Yep.
You said the recovery rates were 93%. Is that across the board, or is that?
So that was across the board. Now that's so what they did is they took 100 slices of the key areas of the deposit, look at it under a microscope, and then they can sort of analyze, what will go and what won't go to the copper con. So the real truth is when you run, cycles, with a true metallurgical engineering house. So we're using SGS, which is a very well-known metallurgical house, and they've gone, we've got some pretty good insights where we're at now. So we're running right now 80% recoveries, and I'm sure we'll do better than that, and just to give you an example, before Friedland put any money in, I asked him, I said, Robert, what do you think of the metallurgical? And he said, look, he said, Platte Reef is a very nice polymetallic in South Africa. And he says it's lower grade, but he says, I'm getting high 80s and low 90s there. So I said, I'm sure you're going to get there. I think that we are going to get there. Yeah. Okay, I guess you guys are good. You're letting me off easy. Thank you so much.
With more than 6,000 small and micro cap companies listed, if you're looking for the next Apple, then Channel Check truly is your tree. It's an investor community where you can access independent Wall Street research, advanced market data, balanced news, corporate videos, and podcasts. You can even register to attend in-person Meet the Management Series lunches, and to be part of the preeminent annual Small and Micro Cap Investor Conference, NobleCon. And here's the best news. Since Channel Check is sponsored by the featured companies, premium membership requires no investment. It's absolutely free. So check it out. Log in today. Find out why Channel Check is North America's leading source of research on the companies that just may change the world.